Nicaraguita, oh lovely flower, flower of my heart, overflowing with purest waters, Nicaraguita, the blood of deer and hen. Oh Nicaragua, you're so much sweeter than all the honey of Tamagas. But now my darling, my Nicaraguita, now that you've freedom, my love for you can blaze out like fire. And now my darling, my Nicaraguita, now that you've freedom, my love for you will blaze out like fire.
That's a wonderful interpretation of a very popular song here in Nicaragua, Paul. And you're living here, we're sitting in your office here in downtown Managua. How did you get here? How did you end up in Nicaragua?
Well, actually that song was really important, now I come to think about it. It really started though with Chilean exiles that came to Scotland, which is where I was living in 1973-74. In 1973 the coup took place, the overthrow of the elected government of Dr. Salvador Allende in Chile on 9/11, first terrible act of terrorism on that date. 9/11. The original 9/11, yeah, that the United States and the northern powers, including Britain, conspired to destroy the elected government of Dr. Salvador Allende in Chile on the 11th of September 1973. And people were tortured if they weren't killed outright. They were tortured, many of them, and some disappeared, many disappeared, and some sent into exile, and some came to us in Scotland, Gabriel and Margarita, Carlos and Giovanna, and they came and they had no English and we had no Spanish. What they did was to form a musical group, and they sang to us particularly the songs of Victor Jara, their great compañero, who had been martyred in the coup just a few months beforehand. They came to Britain actually in 1974 because there was a conservative government in office in Britain in 1973 during the coup time, and they didn't allow refugees from Chile into Britain until 1974 when it changed to being a socialist government. And so that was very telling when you think about that. Anyway, so these guys, Carlos and co, they sang these wonderful songs, and they stood us on our ear really, because we were, well, certainly I was, a woolly liberal, you know, thinking nice thoughts, you know, thinking about charity. I was working with Oxfam, charity, give a little bit of our extra, or, you know, yeah, a little bit of our extra to those starving millions, send them some beans, you know, it'll all be okay, man, and we can all go on living happily ever after. And the Chileans made it clear to us that it's, what happened in Chile showed us, and they certainly were living testimony to the fact that charity is worse than nothing in many ways. It's justice. Justice is what it's about. And they stood us on our ear, as I say. And I was already singing some songs, you know, like Blowing in the Wind and stuff like that. And but as Victor Jara said, I always thought later on when I learned more about him, he said, you know, go on, your protest songs are fine, but you must understand that your songs, I don't even put it quite like this, but this is the way I gloss it. Your songs are born in coffee houses, by and large. Our songs are born in blood.
Wow.
And of course in the tradition, the great labor tradition of protest song, many songs were born in blood during the Depression and those eras, of course. Joe Hill, for example, those kinds of songs. But what we were talking about was the protest songs of the 60s, yeah, and so on, and the 70s. And so the Chileans brought that home to us. They had been tortured and exiled, and they sang to us this heartbreaking stuff. And more, really. They also somehow managed to communicate joy and life as well, you know. Ni chicha ni limonada, that great song by Victor Jara, you neither fish nor fowl, get off the fence, stop playing with yourself, come over here and join us. All that, they were able to sing that. But I always remember Gabriel in particular, because he had been so badly tortured, he'd given up the names of some of his friends, and then he was exiled, and so he never knew what happened to those friends, and what a burden to
That'd be hard to live with.
Oh, totally, yeah. So anyway, I kind of got all excited about Chile. I learned some of the songs of Victor Jara and realized they were very much my kind of songs, because they're just a simple guy with a voice and the guitar, but extremely beautiful, many of them. And I thought, well, I must go to Chile. I must go and see what's going on. And the Chileans more or less fell about with laughter, saying, you know, you cannot be serious. At this time, we're talking, you know, what, the early 80s maybe.
Yeah.
Pinochet was at his most brutal. And so they said, if you want to go to Chile, fine, but you won't come out again. Where you should go is Nicaragua, because that's where the revolution is happening at the moment. And so in 1985, there was this peace march from Panama to Mexico, and then we were going on up to the United States to plead the cause of Nicaragua, in particular with Reagan.